But the one that is kind of a difficult one for us many times is to welcome a stranger. And that really identifies a community of God and just a community. And we know, I know as a priest firsthand, that people are not in church every Sunday, and we have the Creasters, the Christmas and Easter onlys, or the CEOs, Christmas, Easter onlys, whatever you want to call them, that only come a couple times a year. And I know the reason for that is because somewhere along the line, they didn't feel welcome. They felt like they were a stranger and they were not welcomed. And I think that demeanor continues throughout the world of Christianity today. That we don't typically welcome people with our whole heart, because we are very much in the purchase, use it, discard it mentality. And we can't do that when it comes to relationships with people. It's an ongoing process. It's not something we turn on and then we turn off again. So in order to be welcoming to someone, you have to be welcoming all the time. You have to embrace them and make them feel part of the church. A couple of years ago, I believe it was, during Holy Week, I said, don't sit in your normal pews. And I've told you that how many times before, and I just, how many times do I say, if I told everybody to get up and sit on the other side of the church, you would all feel like I told you to, shave mohawks in your head and paint it purple or something ridiculous. Because we're all comfortable in our little neighborhoods. We're all comfortable sitting by, who's behind you, if they're sleeping, if they're making comments, if they're paying attention or whatever, the person in front of you. You're saying, oh, those are new earrings today. I haven't seen those before, because you're staring at the back of their head for the past 10 years or whatever it is, and no one moves from your spot. And God forbid that someone sits in your pew, in your seat, before you do, especially during Holy Week. I've seen books laid out, I've seen candles, coats, different, pots and pans or whatever is out there, so that this is my role, because that's what it needs to be. And many times, how do we welcome someone when we do that? How do you welcome a stranger into the church and make them feel welcome? If we claim our territory, if we claim the church as being ours specifically, it's my church. If we have that understanding that it's my church, then we don't have an understanding of the church at all, because it's not ours, it's God's church. And God's church calls us to welcome people in, welcome strangers. But I think that's a failing across Christianity, that we don't do that. We don't welcome other faiths many times. We look at how the churches work together, and we see that we don't actually work together very well. It's unfortunate, but it starts from the grassroots level. It starts from the beginning and then works its way throughout Christianity. Here's my thing that I was going to talk. Thank you. This is part of my sermon. I just eBay. For those who are computer. That's a joke that didn't go anywhere, but anyways, I'm a little tired today, so. So one of the things I wanted to talk to you today about was a saint that I guarantee that probably no one has heard of in this church. And he's commemorated in your bulletin today, Saint Raphael of Brooklyn. Now you're saying Brooklyn where? Brooklyn, Greece? No, Brooklyn, New York. New York, okay? He's from New York, and his name is very memorable. His original name prior to ordination was Raphael Hawawini, which sounds like Halloween. And the reason I know this saint, I don't know him personally, but I know of him very well, is because when I take my classes in Pittsburgh, one of the locations that we have our classes in is called Antiochian Village. And Antiochian Village is like a retreat center for the Antiochian church. Now you're probably saying, what does Antiochian mean? So let's rewind a little bit and say that Antiochian is the church of Antioch. So if we go back, rewind all the way back to the original church, we have Constantinople, right? That's where our patriarch is, or Istanbul. Then you have Rome, which became the Western church. And then you have other areas too, but one of those areas, one of those sees as they called it, the heads was Antioch, the church in Antioch. So when the church came to America, the Antiochian church came to America, it's called now the Antiochian Archdiocese. So there's the Russian Archdiocese, there's the Greek Archdiocese, there's the Antiochian Archdiocese, and the Antiochian Archdiocese has this particular saint, and here's a picture of him. It's not his icon, but it's a picture of him. And because he was born in 1860, and he died in 1915. But one of the things that he did, now many times when we think of saints and what they had to do, I always think of Father Guido Sarducci. And if you've ever heard of him, he says, in his way, he says, in the Catholic Church you need a 3 miracles. And he goes, today I don't think it's a 3, I think 2 it is a card tricks and a 1 miracle. So we don't have miracles like we see from St. Raphael. He wasn't a miraculous saint like St. Nectarios, who was healing people of cancer, or St. Dionysios or St. Spiro. We have these other saints who have different lives. But we have St. Raphael, and one of the things that he did was, now you figure he wasn't very old at all. He died in his 50s. He established the Antiochian Archdiocese Cathedral, and in his life established 30 parishes and 1 monastery. So he was an auxiliary bishop of the bishop in New York, which was Brooklyn, so that was his kind of title. That was his title. But he established 30 parishes and a monastery and a cathedral in his life. And that is really what has helped to establish the Antiochian church. Now, going back to what I was saying about where I take classes, is the Antiochian village has his grave there, his memorial, and they also have his relics there as well. And I didn't know anything about him until I went there, and then all the Antiochians were like, I can't believe you don't know about him. And one of the reasons for that is it's our fault as a church in general, everybody's fault, not yours, but I mean the church at whole, that we don't know the lives of saints who are right down the street who might have a different ethnicity than us. And likewise, they don't know our saints because of their ethnicity. So what I wanted to read you was his hymns that we have. And there's 2 different hymns. As you hear in the church, we sing Athanasios, you are the pillar that created the Church of Orthodoxy. We hear that hymn that references his life. But I wanted to read you a little bit about his hymns, because the hymns always encapsulate the person's life. And it says, Rejoice, O Father Raphael, adornment of the Holy Church. You are a champion of the true faith, the seeker of the lost, the consolation of the oppressed. You are the friend to the poor, the peacemaker and good shepherd, the joy of all Orthodox, the son of Antioch and the boast of America. Intercede with Christ our God for us all who honor you. And then his kondakion is, Today the memory of the blessed Raphael has shone on us. For having received Christ's call, he faithfully took up his cross and followed him, becoming a fisher of men. Let us cry aloud to him, saying, Rejoice, O Father Raphael. So he's a saint because of his work to establish the church. And as I was thinking of his life and the fact that we don't hear of many miracles from him, but we know about his establishment of the church. And he's considered a saint. He's considered a saint by the people who were in his contemporaries as well as the church now. And I know that all of us kind of say, well, miracles on our end, gee, Father, I don't know if that's going to happen. But aren't you able to establish the church as well? Aren't you able to go to others around you and establish the church? Not just the Orthodox church, but the church, the presence of God, the life of God in others. Aren't you able to do that as well? And I say that yes, you are. You are able to go out and to missionize. And the way to do that starts with, are you welcoming strangers? So we look at Raphael and we say, what did he do? He went to strangers and started churches. He converted them to understand the Christianity. He did that on his own. He didn't ask for help. He didn't look for the miracles to say, well, if I can only, part the Red Sea, then people will actually understand that I represent God. No, he was a simple, humble bishop who went out and started churches. And the way he did that was to say, come in, look at what the church is about. Let me show you the faith. And I say that if you look at him and understand that he is a saint, I say to you that you can also be a saint too by doing the exact same thing, by establishing the church. And it starts from here, and it starts with welcoming strangers. Amen.